Good day, everyone. Richard Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us. Happy to have on board this morning St Albans Mayor Tim Smith. Morning, Mr. Mayor.
Hello, Richard. How are you?
Just fine, thank you. We're taping this show on Wednesday, May 25th. That makes me think of cities' quarterly taxes due, I guess, Friday, May 27th. And with the pandemic, we've talked about this before, with the pandemic, hasn't really kicked up delinquent tax issue. I mean, taxes have still been coming in pretty much as per normal, Tim?
Exactly. Both taxes and water and sewer payments.
And water and sewer payments.
And they both have been on target, no different than any other year.
Yeah.
So, which leads me to believe we're fortunate people were able to stay employed and maintain their payments. And so, probably maybe even the bigger concern might be the inflation and gas prices and what that does to family budgets. I mean,
absolutely, huge issue.
Pushing $5 on gas. If you drive a diesel vehicle, that's $6.30 the last time I checked.
Yeah, I'm hearing even gas. I'm hearing $6 a gallon being mentioned, possibly down the road a bit.
And it depends on what families are utilizing heating oil.
Yeah, wow.
I think I had heard where someone's $1,000 to fill up their tank for heating oil.
Really?
So that may be the bigger.
Yeah.
We may have moved, I say moved beyond COVID in the sense of it being the level of concern that it once was. But now I think the inflation and what that's going to bring to the table is probably a larger concern for, I think, smaller communities like St. Albans.
Yep, I'd say you're right. I got to think Republicans are just licking their chops about the November midterms. I mean, what more issues do they want seemingly in their favor?
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting. It'll be one of those. I know you enjoy watching the results as well.
Yeah, for sure.
On election nights, and that's, we're going through the primary, I think, in Georgia and another state today.
In fact, Georgia was actually yesterday.
Oh, was it yesterday?
Yeah. Mr. Trump took a hit on the governor's race. He had encouraged David Perdue, who lost one of the two Senate races, to run against Brian Kemp, who won easily the Republican primary, setting up a rematch with Stacey Abrams in November. Boy, God knows how much money will be thrown into that race.
It's amazing.
That was a very tight race in 2018.
I cannot help but think of Martha Manning, whose family owns a farm up on Bushy Road. Years ago, she had commented that what we should be doing is tax all political marketing, signs, TV ads, radio ads, at a clip of 25%, and then take that money and donate it to nonprofits and homeless and food shelters and everything else, because it would be much better utilized in that sense than in the marketing for campaign ads, for sure. Yeah. I've always thought that was an interesting concept.
Interesting. Another winner in the Georgia Republican primary, old friend Herschel Walker, will be, of course, the Senate candidate, and not a rematch for him, but the Reverend Raphael Warnock, who won one of the two Georgia Senate seats. It's going to be pretty wild out there.
Herschel obviously has a name recognition for sure.
He's got that. Sounds like there were some issues there.
Yeah, I'd read a few that he had
pulled a gun on somebody or something. I've read.
I didn't hear that one. But yeah, there's. I'm sure there'll be pros and cons for sure. Yeah, as with everyone.
Yeah, and locally, should note again. Not sure when this show airs, but just locally for, I guess, major party candidates, the filing deadline is Thursday, May 26th, tomorrow, 5 p.m., I believe. Yep. Independents, I know someone in Enosburg running for the House, Susie Hull-Cassavant, who I suspect
I didn't know that.
Susie's running as an independent, with Felicia Loeffler not running for re-election in the Enosburg-Montgomery district, with Cindy Weed taking another shot at it. It'll be an interesting race. Oh. But Susie's running as an independent, and I'm not sure what the filing status is for independents. I assume at some point they have to file, but I'm not sure. They may have more time than tomorrow. I'm not sure.
I don't know the answer to that. I would think
major party candidates have the filing deadline Thursday, May 26th.
For simplicity reasons, I would think they'd all be the same time.
I think so, and maybe they are, but anyway. But it'll be a lot of changes locally, with about half the delegation, candidates not or incumbents not running again. And statewide, we talked about all kinds of changes coming up.
I was, if I was surprised at any, I think I was surprised that Bob Norris was jumping to the Senate race.
Interesting, after one term in the House.
After one term,
Yeah.
I really hadn't had a chance to catch up to Bob when, the legislative breakfasts weren't happening.
Right.
So it's tough to interact.
Right.
And so I was not shocked by any means, but just surprised that he made the jump.
interesting.
But I guess you have to do it when the opportunity's there.
Yeah,
So,
of course, Corey Perrin, I suspect his news that he's not running for reelection was a bit of a surprise to, I suspect, a lot of folks.
I would say so.
I know he mentioned, I didn't see, I just saw, I guess, a written statement. He mentioned having young kids, and I think he said he was hoping to bring some balance to the legislature, maybe disappointed that that didn't happen better, but of course, that's a big position in St. Albans town, but that certainly, that news caught me by surprise anyway.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well.
And I guess Pam McCarthy, Mike, City Councilor, State Rep Mike McCarthy's mother, taking another shot at the State Senate, so we'll see if anybody else jumps in.
So it'll be her against Bob Norris at this point.
At this point, and Randy Brock, of course, having
Randy,
announced
right.
for reelection, you'd think Randy would be a pretty safe bet for reelection. So, interesting. Community swimming pool, we're getting close to showtime here?
I don't have my phone with me, Richard, but they were filling it yesterday.
Oh, is that right? Really?
So they were,
Wow.
from my understanding, filling it yesterday. They had put in about 30,000 gallons worth of water and
Wow.
still had a long ways to go.
Huh.
Today, the power company was on site to energize the system
Huh.
so that they can start circulating water and filtering it to make sure it's ready to go.
Wow.
They still have a lot of work to do around the deck and fencing and lighting and that type, but in terms of getting the pool full and cleaned and ready to go, they're making that step as we speak. So.
Wow. Have we got an official opening date for that, Tim?
No, I don't think so.
June,
I think June
presumably
1st is what,
sometime?
but I don't think we've set an official. City manager and I did talk about how we might maybe do some type of contest for maybe a class at the city school to be the first ones to jump in or
that's
something
a
along
good
those
thought.
lines. Something make,
Yeah.
make it a small contest. And, I think back to your good friend Bart Tatro.
Mr. Bart.
Was the first customer at McDonald's when that
That's
opened.
funny. When you
store.
mentioned this, I thought you were going to go there.
Yeah, I remember the picture in the paper, and
is that right?
so now if you have a whole class from the city school, and 40 years from now, 50, they can say I was
That's a great thought.
one of the first participants to jump in the water, and can tell their kids that. So I think
That's a great thought.
I think it's something we want to try to bring to fruition, and but that Bart's picture is always I've always remembered
That's
that.
funny, yeah, I was told, I'm not sure I ever saw the picture, but that was in my mind that Bart was the number one guy.
That was a big event when McDonald's came
Boy,
to
I
town.
bet that was a very big event.
Yeah.
I bet, that's interesting. Does the pool, do we know hours? Are the hours in it, we're talking 7 days a week? I
Yeah,
assume,
7 days a week
summer?
for sure.
Yeah.
Swim team I know is starting weekdays at 7 in the morning.
Wow,
I'm guessing they'll go to 8, 8:30, 9 on some nights. So
yeah.
so pretty much 7 days a week for sure.
So that construction went pretty well, no major no.
Yeah, I don't think so. There were some supply chain issues that
Sure.
we were able to resolve. I send a shout out to Village of Swanton Electrical Department.
Oh, you mentioned that.
We had a hard time finding a meter socket, and I reached out to Reg Belleville at Swanton, and
Right.
Reg and his team had one on storage, and so
Right.
that saved us some money, but it also saved us a couple weeks in time.
Wow.
So, it's that collaboration between communities here in the county that a lot of people don't realize.
Yeah.
So.
The old, the now former St. Albans City Pool that certainly served the city very well. Get any thoughts on that? There was some thought to at least keeping the indoor, you having use of bathrooms and stuff.
Yeah, I think that still holds true.
Yeah.
I think it's more in the supervisory hands now. It's, I think the city will do their part. I think what you would probably end up seeing is the pool gets filled in, and then the building remains for bathroom use for basketball, or excuse me, baseball and soccer games and
Right.
whatnot. So I think that's where the discussion is right now. But there's been no movement yet. The building is still closed up, so.
But presumably filling in the floor, you would think that would probably happen as opposed.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I think folks may be able to see the show before Memorial Day. Should probably touch on Memorial Day coming up on Monday, May 30, and the kind of the usual observance in the city with the parade and observance on Taylor Park.
Exactly.
Got an official speaker for, has that been nailed down, do you know?
Yes. I had to think about it. So the details are they will leave the BFA parking lot, southern parking lot, at approximately 10:30.
Yeah.
Come around through downtown, around the park, and then locate at the monument. The city and town will be hanging the large flag over Main Street.
Right. Good
As
touch.
it's a nice touch. And then I will be speaking, and the speaker is Eric Bushy, actually,
Huh.
from BFA, who's
Oh, right.
been a driver in terms of having the BFA band present at Veterans Day and Memorial Day. And so as Ron Shangra shared with me, it's a little bit different, but it's a different perspective on Memorial Day based on the music aspect of it. So.
Interesting. Sounds good. I know, did you have, of course, the pandemic certainly affected, obviously, observances in some cases. I know Franklin's coming back for the first time in 3 years, I think, but was St. Albans not so affected? You had
Well, we were
the
affected.
first year, probably?
The first year, I think Warren Ham took it under his wing and
Able
pulled,
Wings.
yeah. So he pulled a small ceremony together at the Doughboy, and that was, and then I think and it may have been switched. Out of the 2 years of the pandemic, one of them did not happen, and then Warren stepped in and made sure it happened. I
Yeah.
think it was in that way. And we did have the National Guard send-off last August, if I remember right. And then we did have Veterans Day as well. So I think throughout the whole pandemic, we probably lost, I say lost, we were unable to hold one Memorial Day celebration and one Veterans Day
Yeah,
celebration.
so not too
No,
much of a
yeah.
hit. No, it sounds like things are on that front getting back pretty much to normal.
And actually, I also remember, I think the Legion worked with Roger here and the team at Northwest Cable Access or TV Access to do a video of a memorial celebration or a Veterans Day that they played. So it was more of a electronic TV show for that celebration.
Yeah. I'm seeing work at the Fonda Solo site. It looks like we got some work going on there.
They ran power out to the back lot where the dispatch center is
So
going
this
to
is
be.
for the dispatch,
Yeah, that one.
dispatch center.
Yeah. So there's that activity is going hard. They're moving soil and the foundation, so they're underway.
At one point, as I recall, there was talk there. I haven't heard the St. Albans town folks, and for the record, I think last show I mentioned that I had been getting no response in my attempt to interview St. Albans town folks, which I like to do. But Jonathan Giroux did check in, so we're hoping to talk to him in June. I'm sure he's very busy. But at one point, the town was talking about having a kind of a parallel road going by Price Chopper Walmart and maybe coming into the Fonda site. Is that long gone? Is there, or I guess part of an extension of the Federal Street extension, kind of? Is that?
Yeah, I think that's long gone.
That's long gone.
I think that was definitely a discussion at one point. I think, if I remember right, there's a number of wetlands down through there that would have made it difficult.
pretty tough.
And I think if you remember, Dan Lindley was actually looking at extending the 207 coming down from Highgate, crossing at that light by Handy's.
Right, and I remember that was a wetlands issue.
That was a
messed them
wetlands,
up on
yeah,
that.
and then they couldn't even bring that through. So I think, sorry, Roger. So if, and the other one was, to your point, run parallel, but the wetlands would have caused an issue. I mean, the wetlands at the end of 207 were much smaller than what would be encountered going over to Bryce Chopper. So I think it
sounds like that's gone. So.
Yeah, I think so.
Boy, speaking of Dan Lindley, of course, the then town administrator for St Albans Town, then hooked up, I guess, with Morrisville or Morristown for, I think he retired about maybe a year or so ago. With the Morrisville position.
You say he retired?
I think he retired, I think, about a year ago.
I didn't know that.
For a while, I was getting the News and Citizens, the paper, actually a good weekly out of Morrisville. But I think I was surprised because I think the story mentioned that he was still living in Sheldon. Boy, that's a pretty serious, that's quite the commute, but anyway.
I was just going to say that, yeah, I'm quite sure he still is living in Sheldon.
I haven't seen him for a long time.
Yeah, I haven't seen him for a while, but when he was about 4 or 5 years into his job, he was still traveling the route from Sheldon to Morrisville.
Interesting. Speaking of St. Albans Town, of course, the affiliation issue with water and sewer issues has come up. There was some legislation. I assume that legislation, which I guess some folks in St. Albans Town were pushing, never
materialized.
Never got too far.
It did get out of one committee, but other than that, that was about it.
All right.
I mean, that's the issue for people who may not be familiar with it.
Right.
In the legislature, you can get all cranked up over certain legislation, but many times it doesn't move too far.
Yeah.
You can follow it, but many times things don't even get off the wall. So it's a tricky business to think there's going to be some impact, and usually they don't get. I mean, I don't know how many bills the governor signs, but there's some years there's 1,000 bills that are submitted in the legislature, and many of them sit on the wall. So.
In fact, I just saw, I think on Vermont Biz, just on my checking an email this morning, saw the governor signing about 11, maybe the last 11 bills of the session. Nothing jumped out at me too much. Of course, he certainly was getting some attention for his vetoes, apparently. Yeah. The most vetoes of any Vermont governor, I guess. But
and I commend him. I think I agree with him on some of those vetoes. I mean, the pension one was one that he's looking more long term than a short term fix, and I think some of the leadership is looking to just hang their hat on a short term fix, saying they did some, but I commend him for him standing strong on a number of those.
Yeah, we talked about tomorrow, Thursday, May 26th, being the filing deadline. It sure looks like the most prominent Democratic challenger for the governor will be Brenda Siegel, who's run before. I know she got some attention in recent months. I think she spent 27 days sleeping on the State House steps to draw attention to the homelessness issue. And sounds like a pretty articulate person, but I suspect the governors, you wouldn't think, would be losing a whole lot of sleep about that race, having so handily defeated David Zuckerman, the lieutenant governor, 2 years ago.
And he, I read where he's not, as probably with most people, he's not excited about fundraising. I don't think he has to worry too much about that.
Really? Why? I mean, of course, I think I mentioned this to Pat Leahy many elections ago. Senator, why don't you pull a George Aiken? You know you're going to win in a landslide in November. Why don't you spend George Aiken 1 year, running for governor, I think, spent $16 on a few postage stamps or something. And Senator Leahy looked at me and said, "Richard, are you crazy? You can't imagine what the Republican, how they're going to come after me." I'm sure he won, his usual landslide. But
to our earlier discussion, the legislative or the political races come November are going to be interesting.
Yeah, no, it'll be a lot of changes, as we said, both locally and with some new legislative districts. Sounds like the Republicans might have a shot at one more Senate seat with the new seat, mostly with Milton being the key component. I guess Fairfax, Westford, and part of Essex. Right. And at this point, I guess Leland Morgan, one of the state reps from Milton, West Milton, representing Grand Isle County, too, Republican. I guess he's running, and 2 Democrats from Essex, the one story I saw. But
the Johnson uncle and nephew, right, is Mike's the nephew.
I guess Leland's the uncle of Mike Morgan, the other.
And they pulled off what I think many might view as a little bit of an upset when they
knocked off the House Speaker.
Right, House Speaker Missy Johnson. So I think I think he's got a following, and they obviously work hard, so, or he
Yeah.
works hard.
Yeah, with Milton being the key component there, that might be a chance
Yeah.
for Republicans to actually pick up a Senate seat. Speaking of the legislature, of course, they went along as expected with the charter change the city voters had approved in March on the new city clerk treasurer. Applications coming in, have I?
Yeah, no, I think applications are in. I think it's
They're in.
narrowed down. We just got notified yesterday, narrowed down to 3.
Oh, huh.
So the city manager is compiling an interview committee to do those 3 interviews and then come to the council with a recommendation.
Did you get, many applications you got for that?
I don't know what the total was, no,
Yeah.
but they did narrow it down to 3.
Got some decent applicants, presumably?
Yep.
Wow. And again, that person would be in place on July 1st?
July 1st is a plan. The existing staff in City Hall has been carrying more.
Done okay?
Yeah, well, they've carried more than their weight, for
Yeah,
sure,
that's
covering that office and the zoning office as well. So, yeah, we have a good staff, strong staff in place, a good staff, and, we thank them for their extra work to get through this transition period.
And how long, when you appoint the new city clerk treasurer, how long a contract, how long a term will that be? Can you do?
Yeah, it's not a term, it's
It's
just a regular employee.
Just hiring
Yeah.
someone.
It's like hiring a
Just like anybody else.
zoning administrator or
Okay.
anyone else.
So typically, is there typically a probationary period with something like that, Tim, or?
Tell you the truth, Richard, council doesn't
Sure.
get too involved with that. That's a city manager
city
function.
manager thing.
So I'm not sure what that structure
Yeah.
is. In this case, we will be the ones that will making the decision. Because that was,
The council will make that
council would make,
decision?
because that was the discussion relative to the charter changes that they would answer to the council.
Okay.
So,
Well, that'll be nice to get that nailed down.
yeah, for sure.
Interesting. St. Albans City PD, anything staffing? You holding up okay on the staffing front?
Holding our own, I believe we will offer up a proposal to Highgate come July 1.
Yeah.
So we'll continue to do that. I think Highgate's been happy with the activity that we've provided,
Yeah.
the coverage.
Did you give any thought, I forget, with the Georgia situation and the kind of the dispute with the sheriff's department over the contract that the former sheriff had with Georgia extending past the time that Bob Norris left office and Sheriff
Yeah,
Longfan
no,
saying it's not, you got to pay us more, which they didn't do. Did the
Because
city?
Milton's in there now, right?
Milton's in there
Yeah,
now.
Milton's doing
Yeah.
some coverage.
Yeah, Milton's doing some coverage.
I think our issue is, before we bid on that, we want to make sure we have
Yeah.
a surplus, if you will, or moving towards a surplus of officers. We don't want to, we don't want to run too thin. Georgia's in terms of area.
Well,
it's a
pretty big area.
Yeah, so it's tough to patrol if you don't have the consistent manpower.
Yeah. Would you get, I'm not sure this question's worth much, but down the road, having lost the contract for the town to the sheriff's department, do you think whenever that's up, city PD would go after
No,
that contract again, or is that impossible to say?
We haven't discussed it as a board or as with the city manager, but I think that the city would be interested in bidding on that again.
Interesting. Any changes with city PD in summer? Are there like higher profile downtown or anything with more people around?
I've seen that already. You'll see cars parked on Main Street, and you'll see officers walking, pretty much from BFA to the shopping center.
Oh, is that right?
So they're out and about.
Huh.
I think some people would tell you that's not ideal policing. I tend to disagree.
Yeah.
I think they don't want to stray too far from their vehicles if
Sure.
something does arise.
Yeah.
But I am a big believer that having them downtown interacting.
Just a more visible presence?
More visible presence.
Makes sense to me.
Just carries a lot of weight.
Yeah. I think I'm seeing Burlington PD with all their issues, going to try to give, I guess, Church Street Marketplace or downtown more attention, but geez, what a tough situation.
They just had a shootout in City Hall
Well,
Park,
it
right?
sounds like it with a number of businesses, coming in to find bullet holes in their windows and stuff. Boy, the shoot,
Yeah, I don't make any secrets about it. I think that, downtown Church Street, those businesses have got to be hurting just from,
Yeah.
I won't go to downtown Burlington.
Is that right?
Yeah, I
My
don't.
good friend, the Nighthawk, I think, is officially boycotting Burlington in general these days.
We don't.
Really, is that right? You won't, out of safety, or just not impressed with what's
Just
going
not
on?
impressed with it. Safety comes into play. I mean, if you're taking
Oh.
young kids and
Yeah, I've run into some
City Hall
crazy
Park
stuff.
City Hall Park is 50 yards off Church Street. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah,
and then you got that thoroughfare between Church Street and the lake, but
yeah,
and people will tell you it's isolated instances, but
yeah.
I think it's more. I just don't know that I would enjoy my visit to Burlington.
Interesting. Downtown St. Albans, of course, some new businesses. Feel as we head into the
Yeah.
summer, downtown doing okay?
A little early yet. I know Bootleggers opened up, and they had a good crowd. I actually had COVID last week, so I wasn't able to welcome them. But that one, Nourish, is up and running. They're doing
Yeah.
well. And now the next one would be the Hangry Donut, and then I think it's Off the Rails, the restaurant down on at One Fed.
Right.
So
Yeah.
for a small town, I don't think we can complain about having
Yeah.
potentially, actually more than 4. And there's a new salon opening up on Lake Street. You have a yoga studio on Center Street. So what I would say is that the city's seriously looking at our last year of the TIF. Our
Right.
TIF runs out on March of 2023.
Tax increment financing, yeah.
So, which I think to a person, most people would agree. It's been a great thing for the city of St. Albans. I think,
A certain state official comes to mind,
right,
who might not buy into
not
that.
everyone. But we're looking at a couple other projects that we'd like to bring before the voters in November
Huh.
or March, depending on the timing, and maximize our use of that program.
Anything, any big, of course, last summer Kingman Street was getting, of course, a lot of attention. Anything like that going on this summer, or are you pretty much done with the stuff that's?
Well, the classic car show is scheduled for July 16th.
Oh, yeah.
I had discussions with Kathy Manahan on that. So she's moving forward, looking at I think Handy Toyota has offered up their parking lot where they had some classic cars last Friday. I'm not sure if that's an every Friday thing, but they've offered up that parking lot. And what Kathy talked about was doing potentially a big rig setup for kids and families to enjoy, so you can do the car show and go over and do the big rig experience for the younger kids. So that's happening July 16th. The farmers market opened up 2 weeks ago, and that their vendor numbers will continue to grow as gardens produce.
In Taylor Park, we got Taylor Park Music coming
Taylor
up.
Park Music, I think June 22nd, the Citizen Band kicks it off, but
Right.
I think we have 11 or 12 dates, all Wednesdays, with the exception of the Citizen Band nights. They're all at 5:30. 14 Star will be there, and El Gula food truck will be there.
Right.
So things are moving forward. I think downtown's going to be as busy as it's ever been.
Right. Speaking of Handies, I think didn't they come through? I'm seeing free admission for the St. Albans
I
Museum
won.
this summer. That's a nice touch.
I want to mention that as well. That's a great way to give back to the community, and
Museum's great, tremendous resource.
so just them doing that, and it'll be a big benefit, I think, to the museum.
Yeah.
Thank you to the Handy team.
Yeah. Down to 30 seconds, Tim. Anything else you want to quickly mention?
No, I think the pool opening is going to be huge. I think people are really going to enjoy that. And I just think downtown St. Albans, and we spend a lot of time talking downtown, but it's key to our community. And I know the town also has a number of activities they have coming up. So it should be a busy summer.
Sounds like a good summer. Thanks to St. Albans Mayor Tim Smith, producer Roger Lindley. I'm Richard Cowperthwait. We'll see you next time on Northwest Access TV. See ya.